sound to the live stream is from this and this one.
Okay. All right, thank you again for responding to our request. I just thought I should share with you a few, what we call them, housekeeping issues so that we are focused. One, this is the moment to check if your phone is on silent so that it's seamless. Secondly, this is going to be a very brief update. We have called you because you know what's happening out there regarding EFC, and following the statement that was issued by the regulator, the central bank, the Deposit Protection Fund has now been called to execute its mandate. And that's why we felt that it was important to share with you the updates we have so far. The primary target being the depositors of EFC, and of course the rest of the public is also interested in knowing what's happening. So as I said, this is going to be a very precise and to the point presser. We would like to give you an opportunity to address some of the issues that may be picking out from whether yourselves or the media and the public. You probably have also noticed that we had initially planned this to be a joint presser with the central bank, but as of this morning, we received information there are issues that they're dealing with, and they may not be able to join us today. But because of the sensitivity of this matter, I am very sure that we shall be reaching out to you quite often over the next few weeks or so. So we felt that since you are here, we can still share with the public what the Deposit Protection Fund has prepared in terms of execution of its mandate. I would like this basically to be interactive, but with a key focus on the issues that address the depositor issues. The central bank at the right time will also address matters of the closure and so on and so forth. So today, the Chief Executive Officer of the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, Dr. Julia Clare, is going to address you very precisely and briefly on what we have done up to this point, and also give you an indication of where I would like to head. She's accompanied by members of the EXCO. Just to keep it very brief, I'll run through so you know who is here. Starting off with Madame Angela, the lady in green. That's our Director of Legal and Board Secretary. Next to her is Mr. Yusuf Muchibi. He's the Director of Finance. Opposite me is Balam Sempala, Director IT. On my left is Alan Luetabe, is the Director Investments, and Mr. Appel is Director Human Capital. As I mentioned, my name is Patrick Ezaga, Director Communications. So without further ado, let me take this moment now to invite the Chief Executive Officer to share with you the message that we had planned, and then thereafter we shall quickly go into some Q&As, and we call it a day after that. Asanteni sana. Please feel at ease.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick, and good morning to the media fraternity. Thank you for honoring the invite for the Deposit Protection Fund to be here as I release this statement, which is very, very important to us, the depositors out there, especially the depositors of EFC Uganda Limited. Update on payment of depositors of EFC Uganda Limited. Kampala, January 24, 2024. The Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, also known as DPF or the fund, received notification from the Bank of Uganda about the closure of EFC Uganda Limited and revocation of its license. Section 111A and Section 111C(5) of the Financial Institutions Act 2004, as amended, stipulates that the Deposit Protection Fund is required to make payments or protected deposits to customers within a period of 90 days after closure of the financial institution. EFC Uganda Limited's depositor analysis based on information that the fund received before the bank was closed in December 2023. Depositors to be paid using mobile money, those are the depositors who have less than 100,000, constitute 68% of the total depositors in the bank. Depositors to be paid through the agent bank that will be later disclosed constitute 30%, and depositors with balances above the protected limit constitute 2% of the total deposit base of EFC. The fund will commence payment of the protected deposits as follows. Depositors who have protected deposits of 100,000 will be paid using mobile money effective Monday, January 29th, 2024, after verification of their names and their mobile phone numbers. All depositors with balances up to 10 million will be paid effective February 5th, 2024 through an agent to be communicated. Requirements for lodging depositor claims. All depositors who will be paid by the agent bank are required to lodge in a claim for payment by filling out a depositor claim form that shall be made available at the agent bank at no cost. Depositors of EFC Uganda Limited in liquidation are therefore required to submit the following documents amongst others, together with the claim form. Individual account holders, a valid original national ID, this is mandatory for Ugandan nationals, a valid passport for non-Ugandans, a valid refugee number for the refugees. For joint accounts, we shall expect valid original national IDs of the joint account holders. Company and trust account holders, we expect a copy of the registration documents, a registered resolution indicating who shall be paid, valid national IDs of the beneficiaries. The fund shall continue to provide regular updates to the depositors and the public. Any inquiries on protected deposits should be directed to the DPF Director Communications on telephone number 256 312 206 400 or at info@dpf.or.ug. Signed, Julia Claire Olima Oyet, Chief Executive Officer of the Deposit Protection Fund.
Thank you very much, CEO. As I mentioned, this is very precise and to the point. We are being careful in the information we are sharing with depositors for obvious reasons. This is a very sensitive matter, and as a result of that, we are ensuring that the message that is given out to the depositors and the public is precise and clear to the point. As we open up to members of the media for purposes of questions and clarifications, I just want to request, and this is almost obvious, that any misreporting by you can have very detrimental effects. So this is first of all an appeal that as much as possible, where you're not sure we are available, my numbers are going to be shared, my cards will be given to you. Please verify, because any slight misreporting can have very far-reaching implications. This is just by way of an appeal. I trust your professionalism to ensure that you are precise. So on that note, we will go to the usual thing you guys usually know. In the Q&A session, in an orderly manner, you put up your hand, you preferably indicate the media house you're from, and then you can proceed to ask the question that you like to ask. I'd like to open up the floor now. All right, we start at the back.
You've given us. I'm not loud enough. Okay. Nebet Rugadia, Uganda Radio Network. You've given us percentages regarding the possible claimants. I'm asking if you have like absolute figures of like how many depositors we are dealing with, and yes, the breakdown, and maybe the totals in deposits, if you can.
Okay. Thank you. Madam? Same question. So can we first, let's just respond to that because I'm sure it's reverberating across the room. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, Rugadia. I'd like to ask my director, Operations and Finance, to give an overview of how many depositors we had, roughly how many depositors we had in the bank, and the total. And the total deposits that the bank had.
Okay. Thank you so much, CEO. Okay. Thank you so much. Hopefully I can be heard. We have numbers that we got from the bank before its closure as at 31st December 2023. And roughly, and these are estimates because the official numbers are supposed to come from the liquidator, and we don't want to preempt that number. But as at 31st December, depositors that had a balance of 100,000 and below, we are around 1,800 depositors. And then depositors that had balances between 100,000 and 10 million, we are around 600. And then depositors that had balances above 10 million, we are roughly 40. Yeah, those are the numbers. In terms of absolute numbers, we can't provide those as these will have to come from the liquidator. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There is okay, let's work on the outer circle, then come. Yes, sir.
My name is Beggar from Abandoned. My first question is how much it's about building it. How much of the deposits is about building it? And two, there's been an ad that your amounts are not attractive, like your payments are still too low. 10 million, really, it discourages you. It can discourage depositors that their deposits are not safe. Have you thought, are there plans to enhance this amount to see that it goes up? And this is the first banking institution to be closed under your reign, your period, your existence, I think. I want to understand what is going to be different from the all the stories we have heard. We hear even some people of TEFE are still demanding some, they have not been paid of their deposits 20 and above years later. So we want to understand how is it going to be different with your existence. Thank you.
3 questions in one.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let's take this. Okay, thank you very much for the 3 questions. Yes, thank you very much for the 3-in-1 questions. My colleague will answer the first one about the rough estimate of the value of depositors above the 10 million. Of course, these are rough estimates just to give the public an idea. They are not accurate. the question of 10 million being low, I would like to report that this limit was 3 million for 20 years before the Deposit Protection Fund came into existence. Immediately we came into existence, like you, we noted that this limit was low, and we went through a process of conducting research, and it was raised 3 times the 3 million shillings up to 10 million shillings. When we look at our coverage, with the 10 million shillings, we are covering 98% of all the depositors in the country. So according to the Deposit Protection Fund, and also following the principles, international best principles of deposit insurance, the 10 million is adequate. The small, unsophisticated depositors within Uganda are fully covered, and indeed that is reflected with the statistics that we have given. The depositors that fall below the 10 million are 98%, and we're going to pay them fully. We have the 2%. Now, deposit insurance is designed to protect the small, unsophisticated depositor. The 2% that is above that limit are what are considered knowledgeable depositors who should be monitoring the financial sector and who should be understanding the performance of their banks and making good decisions. Deposit insurance limits cannot be raised too high because then you expose the whole sector to moral hazard, where the depositors will put their money in any institution without thinking about the risks they are taking. Every decision you make, there's a risk. So you have to think about the risk that you're taking when you're putting your money in a particular bank. Also, on the side of the managers, if the deposit insurance limit is too high, they will take a lot of risks, knowing that even if the bank is closed, it is okay because the government of Uganda will pay the depositors. And that is why the principles of deposit insurance are very clear. You have to put a limit which covers the majority of your small, unsophisticated depositors, and that is what we have done. Having said that, the principles are also clear. Every 5 years, you review that limit to see if it's still adequate. And so very soon, we are starting the process of conducting research, benchmarking with other deposit insurance entities to see if this limit needs to be raised. But I cannot say that it's going to be raised to 1 billion shillings. It will really be as long as we're able to cover the small and sophisticated depositors still. The question on what difference are we going to make as a Deposit Protection Fund? And it's a very good question. You mentioned TEFE, and probably the other banks that were closed, Greenland, Cooperative, and ICB. You'll recall that the depositors took some time to get their money. At that time, we were operating a highly manual system. The Deposit Protection Fund has come in place. We have a very sophisticated payout system, and indeed that is why we are able to get this information from the banks, and we are going to pay depositors within a record period of not more than 10 days from when the bank was closed. Previously, we would pay, the Bank of Uganda would pay 6 months and above because of the circumstances that were there at that time. That is a big difference. The other big difference is that we have always told the depositors to update their records. I'm sure many of you have been here when I've emphasized depositors must update their records with their national IDs, with their phone numbers, and as I've indicated, to get paid, a depositor must present their original national ID. That is important because as a country, we are identified by our national ID, us as Ugandans, and the law is very clear on that. So Ugandans who had deposits in EFC who have not yet got national IDs, please hurry and get your national IDs. The beauty is our records show most of the depositors have national IDs. We just have a few depositors who didn't update. But the message to the rest of the depositors is please update this information with your financial institution. So I'd like to invite my colleague, Yusuf, Director Finance and Operations, to give the press an idea of what the 2% is in terms of absolute figures.
Thank you, CEO. In terms of numbers, and I want to qualify that these were as at 31st December. The bank had total deposits of around 52 billion shillings, of which the top depositors, the top 20 depositors, actually held 50 billion shillings. So that means that effectively, those 43 depositors I talked about actually own over 98% of the depositor base in terms of value, which is the 15 billion. And the rest of the depositors account for the 2%, which is the 2 billion shillings. Thank you.
So much is above
Above,
that we are not going to pay.
50 billion shillings, which is
Maybe just
unprotected. That's the unprotected deposit. 50 billion, yes.
maybe just to clarify, that's the amount that the Bank of Uganda has indicated to the public that they are going to pay, but steps are going to be taken to inform the public on the modalities of that process.
Okay, yes.
My name is Collins. To the finance chief, wanted to walk us through the math you used to pay. Let's say like Kazibwe had 1 million in EFC and Jemba had 100 million in EFC. How much are they entitled and what math do you use?
You're interested in math.
Thank you for that question. Kaziwe will get his full 1 million shillings. Jemba will be paid up to 10 million by the DPF. And the difference will be paid by the regulator in this case because they pronounce themselves that all the depositors are covered fully. So as DPF, we shall pay up to 10 million. That means that the 90 million for Jemba will actually be covered by Bank of Uganda. Thank you.
And just to add that for those depositors out there who know they have loans, they will be treated differently because they have taken money out of the bank, but we are going to communicate on
The aspect of loans we need to.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay.
We are flexible in DPF.
Okay. So for the depositors out there who took loans from EFC, they are going to be treated in a special way because the law has a provision on how people who took loans from a closed bank are treated. Specifically, those who defaulted definitely have caused the collapse of that bank. Therefore, we cannot expect that they are going to be paid their full deposit. So there can be some offsetting, but that information is going to be shared with you when we have the next press briefing.
Okay. Any other?
But what we saw is that when the bank is put under receivership or liquidation, there's a chance that it can bounce back. But when this money is paid, does it mean that it is a done deal? It has gone to never, because if the people are being paid, I thought liquidation period is a process of resuscitating it to life. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is a very pertinent question, but I think you'll keep it when you have an interaction with the Bank of Uganda. Our mandate is to pay the depositors.
So the long and short is DPF, we are undertakers. Any other question?
Luganda version.
Luganda.
Okay, the Uganda version.
We will let's arrange, let's wrap this up, then we'll get our Luganda specialists to summarize in 1 or 2 sentences what the message has been. But it looks like for today, we have sufficiently addressed what we had intended to. As I mentioned, over these next couple of weeks, we are going to be providing periodic updates through you, the media, to the rest of the public. So this stand-up is very nice, and I hope that you can be able to join us whenever we invite you, so that we try and counter a lot of the misinformation, especially on social media. There is so much going on out there, and people need to have a reference point, which is a trusted source, and there's no other than the DPF itself. So thank you very much for today. Let me wrap up that session, and then we organize a quick recap in Luganda for the team. Asanteni sana. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Just hold on. Angela, let's shut that door. It's a bit open.
Okwongera okujjukiza abatereka ssente mu kitongole eky'ebyenfuna ekyaggaddwawo banka enkulu eya Uganda olwaleero nga 24 January omwaka ogw'2024 ekitongole ekya Deposit Protection Fund ekivunaanyizibwa okusasula abantu abatereka ssente mu bitongole by'ebyenfuna ebiggalwawo Bank of Uganda era ekitongole ekyaggaddwawo EFC Uganda Limited ekyaggalwawo ku Lwokutaano lwa wiiki ewedde. Bino bye twagala okwongera okutegeeza abantu abatereka ssente ezo abadde batereka ssente zaabwe mu kitongole ekyo ekyaggaddwawo EFC Uganda Limited. Deposit Protection Fund egenda okusasula abadde batereka ssente. Tugenda kukozesa emikutu egy'enjawulo. Tujja kuba tukozesa mobile money services okusasula abantu ebitundu 68 ku 100. Era tujja kuba tusasula abalala abanaba basigaddewo nga tetukozesa mobile money services. Tujja kukozesa waliwo banka endala gye tuyita agent bank gye tugenda era nayo okuyisaamu ssente okusasula abatasobola kufuna ssente zaabwe mu mobile money services. Ebitundu 3 ku 100 bajja kusasulibwa eyo. Ate abalala abalina ssente ezisukka aba mobile money tujja kuba tusasula abalina ssente 10,000 okukka wansi. Ate be tujja okusasulira mu banka abalina waggulu w'emitwalo 10 okutuuka ku bukadde 10 tujja kuba tubasasulira mu banka. Ate abalina ssente ezisukka obukadde 10 tujja kubasaba batuwe account endala mu bitongole ebirala bye baterekamu ssente nabo tubasasule abo bali ebitundu 2 ku 100. Okay, enteekateeka zino zijja kutandika wiiki ejja ku Monday bwe tujja okutandika okusasula abantu bonna. Twagala okutwala omukisa guno okugumya abantu bonna abatereka ssente era abadde batereka ssente mu EFC Uganda Limited nti ssente zammwe zonna zijja kusasulibwa. Aba Deposit Protection Fund bajja kusasula ssente awamu n'ekitongole ekikulu ekya Bank of Uganda. Mubeere bagumu, mulindirire tujja kwongera okubategeeza ebinaaba byeyongera okugenda mu maaso. Mwebale nnyo kumpuliriza. Bino bye bimu ku bintu ebyetaagisa bw'onooba okufuna ssente nga obadde otereka mu EFC Uganda Limited. Twetaaga okuba nti oleeta National ID ndagamuntu eyiyo yennyini ng'olinayo ssente mu banka eyo. Era twetaaga bw'oba nga toleese National ID oyinza okuleeta passport yo bw'oba nga toli munnayuganda. Twetaaga passport yo. Bw'oba nga oli mu buddamye oba refugee tujja kwetaaga namba yo ey'obudami oba eya refugee number. Bw'oba nga mulina kye twandiyise nga joint account holders nga mwegatta mulina account nga mwegatta engassi tujja kuba twetaaga era ndagamuntu ey'omuntu oyo anaaba alondeddwa gumunaalonda okuba nti no yafuna ssente ezo. Ate era bwe muba nga mulina account naye nga era mwegatta oba nga trust oba company nga mulina company yammwe nga mubadde mutereka ssente mu EFC tujja kuba twetaaga copy eya registration oba ebibakwatako bye mwakozesa okuggulawo company eyo oba okuggulawo trust. Tujja kuba twetaaga n'endagamuntu ey'abantu abo banaaba balina okufuna ssente ezo. Mwebale nnyo, mwebale ddala. Amannya gange nze Balamu Sempala nga nkolera mu kitongole Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. Nze nkulira nze nkulira department ey'ebyuma by'ekalimagezi oba kituyinza okuyita nze director owa IT.